Welcome back, folks, for another fun reloading video. Today's topic at hand, we're going to be duplicating my favorite 300 Blackout plinking load. I recently acquired a pound of 2400 at one of my local shops, thinking I could use this in 38 Special. I've noticed that load data is pretty hard to come by, but there's a lot of data available for it with 300 Blackout. Speaking of our load data, we're going to take a look at the Hornady 10th edition today. If we take a look at our data in the Hornady manual for 150 to 155 grain projectiles, we'll see near the top of their list of powders is Alliant 2400. Now let's be clear here, I am not using a plated or a full metal jacket style bullet. We are using the Cast Lee 312155, and that has been sized down to 309 and twice powder coated. If you've seen my previous loading with these bullets, I already have a great load dialed in with Shooter's World Heavy Pistol. However, I really like having redundancies and backups, especially when components are scarce and one thing might be out of stock. So, although I do not have a chronograph, based on what Gordon Reloading Tool can tell me, my bullet is traveling right above 1500 feet per second with my 12 grains of Shooter's World Heavy Pistol. And again, I had a very nice accuracy node here, so that's what we're trying to duplicate is accuracy and not trying to maximize our velocity. So without being too redundant, I was able to plug in my Alliant 2400 into Gordon Reloading Tool, and it gave me approximately 13 grains, will put me right at 1510 feet per second, right where my other load is with the Shooter's World. And real quickly, before we move on, I'll add in that although 13 grains looks like it's near the maximum for Hornady, our reloading software lists us just under 40,000 PSI, which is well below our maximum SAMI pressure. Now that we have our homework out of the way, we can get on with our components. Today, we're going to be using our Fiocchi small rifle Magnum primers. Now, are we a Magnum primer or a standard primer mixture primer? All kidding aside, I've found that these are relatively hard as far as their cup goes. And when I've tested them in pistols, I was only able to get one of my revolvers to reliably set them off in case I had to use them as a backup. They come in these really awkwardly shaped packs of 150, and they're in rows of 8, so it makes counting a lot of fun. If you couldn't tell already, our propellant today is going to be Alliant 2400 Smokeless Magnum Handgun Powder. When I initially opened the bottle up and kind of peeked inside, I just assumed it was a ball powder. However, upon closer inspection here, we can tell this is a super shortcut extruded powder. I've already been running it through my Dillon powder measure here, and it actually flows very consistently. And here's our projectile real quick. Again, the Lee 312155, and I've sized them down to 309 after 2 coats of powder coating. It is a gas check design, however, I'm not running them fast enough for me to have to worry about that. Our last component here, we're going to look at our brass real quick. These are just Lake City 556 cases that I have converted to 300 Blackout, and we've got 20 pieces here for our test load. So here we've got our Dillon 550 all set up, our primer tube is loaded. We have our universal case expanding die on stage 1. The reason for the expanding die is twofold. First off, my brass is already fully prepped, so we don't have our sizing die on stage 1. And since we're using cast bullets, we're going to need to expand those next anyways. And I'm going a little heavy on the expansion because I don't have the proper 300 Blackout powder funnel. What I have installed here today, I've been playing around with the 357 38 Special powder funnel, and because I've got that mouth expanded just a little bit extra, it's able to use that powder funnel and cycle. Stage 3 is where we're going to be seating our bullets. For that, we're going to be using the Lee 300 Blackout seating die. And then all the way around the back here, I have the Hornady taper crimp seating die without the seating stem engaging our bullets. So we're only using that for our taper crimp to finish it off there. Now I've got all of our bases loaded up, so to speak, so I've double checked my overall length, and we are ready to pump out some rounds here. So now that we've got those 20 rounds out of the way, I double checked my powder measure to make sure it was still throwing an even 13 grains. I also pulled out a few 5 or so random cases to check their overall length, and those were all well within the margin of error. And then finally I grabbed a couple at random and did a function test through the firearm. So these are all ready to go to the range. I'm going to go ahead and load up 20 more with my Shooter's World load, and I'm going to try these two out side by side and see what we can come up with. Real quick before we leave, let me know down in the comments which powder you think is going to end up grouping better. So if you have made it all the way through the video, I want to say thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you so much. Stay tuned for the range report. We will see you in the next video. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one.